What's up, everyone? Tag a friend and let them know we're about to get into it.
Welcome to the Speak Her podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where creators and innovators connect. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm your co-host Jonathan. Camille will be here shortly. Before we begin, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe.
Keep the Speaker podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Please share this and tag a friend who needs to hear this.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. What I need you to do right now is hit that notification bell and subscribe. We are about 200-ish downloads away from hitting our next milestone of 12,000 downloads. I'm so excited about that. And I was checking the stats on yesterday. So we're now streaming in 81 countries, 1,176 cities, something like that. I don't know. And we just got added to markets in LA, Houston, Texas, as well as Dallas. I want to shout out to everybody in those districts. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We have an amazing show tonight. He is no stranger to the show. He is family and friend. And you know when he's here, we really get into it. So welcome back, the one and only Recondius O'Brien. Thank you for joining us and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to see you and to be back.
Absolutely. So just catch us up. First of all, how are you doing? What's going on in your world? And what are you doing now?
I'm working, trying to stay sane. No. I am sane. Doing a lot more in ministry now, a lot more opportunities in ministry. Still growing my platform, wanting to do, I got some new things on the horizon that I'm looking to launch, but I had to do some inner work first. And so now I think I'm ready. I'm getting there.
Good. So one of the things I want to get right into, because we get deep into the weeds every time you're here. And you were just saying how you're getting back to you and life can come with so many curveballs. And it seems like right now there's a lot happening, right? So how are you managing, like learning how to pivot with clarity and purpose, when life shifts unexpectedly? And then those experiences that have disrupted your journey, what did you learn? What have they revealed?
Okay, so let's break it apart and compartmentalize.
Yeah.
So how do you pivot, right? The beautiful thing about life is that there are no certainties. There are a lot of things, we this whole life thing is a faith journey, right? And so for me, pivoting is never not an option, because you have to always, like, if you really and truly, if you think about it, we're not in control of anything. We learned that during the pandemic, like when the entire country shut down, we had to adjust, or we were literally in a conundrum, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. And so pivoting is always, and when I say the word pivot, I literally see where my heel turning. And so when you say, well, how do you pivot with purpose and clarity? The first thing that I have to do is, when I realize that change is coming, I seek God and ask him, okay, so what is this? What am I supposed to learn? What was I supposed to learn in this opportunity? Once I figure out what I'm supposed to learn in the opportunity, and then there's an opportunity for me to shift, and then I shift. But the thing about shifting with me, I don't want to shift. I don't want to work my first works again. So I want to make sure that if I'm shifting or if I'm pivoting, that I'm pivoting in the right direction. So to answer your question, I need to know that I'm going in the right direction. and that I've concluded everything over here that I need to conclude in order for me to go forward.
Wow. So in that space, when did you know pivot here? Because a lot of people are pivoting, but then they don't pivot in the right place in the right time. So how did you know when and where to pivot?
I will be honest with you, Camille, in these last few months, the Lord began to deal with me about I had been in some situations too long. I had stayed too long. I'd hit a wall. And when I hit the wall, what I realized that it wasn't new, but it was that I had literally just pushed it to the side. And so once I hit that wall and I realized, okay, wait, I don't like the way this feels. And so once I began to assess where I was, I had to really pinpoint. So is this exhaustion? Is this weariness? Is this depression? Why are you feeling these things?
Mm-hmm.
So once I did start doing that type of asking those type of questions, then I had to be good with the answers. And then once I understood, hey, you literally have been operating on burnout for a while. And I didn't even like the way that sounded. But what I was doing was continually showing up, but I wasn't bringing all of me into the room. Not that I wasn't welcome, but I was bringing what I needed to do to survive in that moment.
Mm-hmm. And
And so,
that's the difference between the survival mode and thriving.
yes. And I will tell you that I would share with anybody that is dealing with feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you're not showing up enough and not doing, check your fruit. Make sure that you're not suffering from burnout. And when I say that, I mean that with most sincerity, simply because burnout is a real thing and you have to really and truly get a grasp on it, because if you don't, you'll find yourself in a tailspin and you can't get out.
Wow. With I think we do autopilot so well, right? We learn how to make do, and maybe that's a cultural thing that's been innate because that's something that's been passed down within generations as far as um pushing a whole lot of things to the side or putting it in a compartment because those that came before us were in um social, economic, cultural things happening because of the decade they lived in, the century they lived in, um, societal, where we were as a society, and so we didn't have the opportunity to address. And I don't agree with everything he says, but I do remember something Charlemagne said. And he said that our generation is the first generation that's been afforded or given the opportunity to heal, to even explore what that looks like, because those before us, they didn't have time. They were fighting Jim Crow, civil rights, mass incarceration, all these things, and so they it just was not even on the forefront because the focus was just literally trying to make it to the next day.
So that is where the great unlearning happens, where you have to unlearn some of the things that were passed down, some of the things that were adapted. You have
Mhm.
to learn a new behavior, a new posture, and then begin to live in your newness. See, it's easy to go back to what you is familiar. And so the unlearning didn't work if you keep going back to it. But when you unlearn it, and then you relearn a new behavior and a new posture, and then you begin to exercise in your newness. It's uncomfortable in the beginning, but I will tell you the great unlearning. It is still to right now. I've unlearned some things in the last week or so that literally were not savory, but I had to look at it and say, okay, I understand.
Yeah. I totally understand that. I think for myself in this season, it's the catch up because physically parts of me are here, but then other parts of me were still mentally wired from the previous season. And the hardest thing I think in that transition period is those other parts of you catching up to where God has you now so you can go on to the next le space. And sometimes we experience that tug of war because you automatically want to, what I call, default back to that old switch, but you're smiling. But you
Tell you why. Go ahead.
yeah, and then it's like, no, you're here. And so, it's like when you have your phone, right? And there's an update. You have the same phone, but there's an update. And if you don't do that update with everyone else, like we're on iOS, I think 26.4, whatever, but
Mhm.
you're still on 3. It's not that it doesn't work, but there's just some bugs and kinks that get worked out with the update.
Yeah. The reason why I began to smile is because prior to me coming on, I was teaching Bible study, and I read something that kind of shook me. And it says that Christ wants to give us a new identity. And what I heard in the spirit was that we so busy trying to hold on to our street cred and to who we were before that we have not adapted the new identity that God wants to give us. So we're living beneath our privilege because we're holding on to something that no longer serves us.
Wow. Um, that's crazy because I know this is we're not going there, but I have to say preface this for reference. I was watching New Zion last night, Bishop Jacobs, and he said the same thing, the new you. So it just confirmed some things he said. And that's why I'm kind of tickled hearing that. And
Yeah.
and when you said that, I'm just like, oh wow.
The last things I said before I jumped off, I said, so you still want to be that rah rah rah, and God is saying no. We're forgetting the former things and we're moving forward, but we can't move forward if we're holding on. It's so interesting to me. The space that I'm in now, I don't desire to be who I was last week. I don't desire to be who I was last year. I don't want my responses to be the same as they were last year. What I desire to be is to be the best person I can show up as today, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, those identities no longer serve me because I have a new mindset. Every day I'm given new mercy, so I should have new thoughts.
Hmm.
I should have a new opportunity to make a difference.
Absolutely. In that space, Rico, those experiences that disrupted your journey, like what did they really reveal though?
Oof.
What did they peel back? What did it expose?
Uh, I'm pausing before I answer the question because I want to answer the question fully, but I also want to be honest about the answer.
Right.
When you use the word disrupt, that means to me, it means you break up the norm or you trouble the area. So disrupt. What it did, the things that happened, and you were privy to some of them. What God showed me, and He does this just flash for me. So when I think from just 2021, 2021, we're on the heels of COVID. I got into a relationship that was not fruitful for me. I kept trying to make something work that was not workable. Then from there, my sister became ill. My sister died. 23 days later, my nephew sets the house on fire. This room that I'm in right now, it's burned down to the studs. 2 days after that, I'm in a car accident. $11,000 worth of damage under my car. I was so numb and so clocked out that I didn't even, when the accident happened, a tow truck appeared. He said, "You need a tow?" I said, "Probably." I gave him my key. I got my bag out of the car. I stood on the sidewalk, called my best friend and said, "Come and get me." I ain't speak to no police officer. I didn't seek medical help. I got in the car, leaned my head up against the window and came home. 2 months later, not even a month, no, a month later, I'm driving between my two stores. I was still an area manager at the time. I fall asleep at the wheel and run off the road. And the rental Nothing was damaged, but it shook me. I walked into my boss's office and said, "When is inventory?" She told me. I said, "The 18th is my last day." I resigned from my job that day. And so the disruption, what I am learning, I never dealt with any of those things. Not fully. I was there. I was present, but I tucked them away. And so while you think you are managing, if you're not handling it, or if you haven't put it where it belongs, it will literally wreak havoc on you in other ways. Your nervous system, your body. Like I had been experiencing pain, and I thought it was pain, but it was my body reacting to what I had not processed.
The body keeps the score.
The body keeps score. And so what I've learned in that time in those disruptions was I can no longer afford to pretend that it doesn't affect me. I put it where it belongs and manage it. Like I literally, if I could share anything with anyone, like, you cannot turn your head and pretend you don't know what's happening. It will destroy you.
Yeah. Um, and you're getting into something I really want to get to the heart of, as far as what we're speaking on tonight, as far as how that really impacts Black men.
Mm.
I can't remember who wrote it. I think it might have been Michael Bazin. He wrote a book, Men Cry in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
And this really speaks on how men process stress and grieve quietly, and can be screaming, but it's silent. And
Yeah.
everyone around them, whether it's the women, family members, whomever, miss those cues. And then when other events take place, everyone is shocked, everyone is surprised, no one knew, no one saw the red flags, or or did they not see the flags because they were so focused on what they need, because normally the men are the providers, the protectors, the breadwinner, all of these things. And so wearing the stress, still having to show up and meet the numbers, hit the quotas, sign the contracts, get the deals, but yet on the inside, breaking, cracking, crying, screaming, and no one sees it, no one hears it.
Yeah. That's a real thing. So you asked, how does it affect Black men?
Mhm.
I will tell you, I didn't think that I didn't think I had permission to fall apart.
Wow.
I didn't think that it was that like, that's not how God deals with me. God doesn't, like, I have 24, 48 hours to manage a thing, and then I have to move on. But what I realized is that I was doing a disservice to myself in that space. Why was I doing a disservice? I was doing a disservice because everything that happened to me needed its time to heal. It needed to land where it needed to land, and I needed to process the healing. See, the thing that most of us are guilty of is that we don't try to process through the healing. We try to go around it or above it. And unfortunately, you have to allow grief to have its space, because it shows up unexpectedly. It shows up in the quiet moments. It shows up in the dark. And if you're not careful, it shows up in the light too. But when it shows up, because it's not been given a proper outlet to process, it shows up as anger, or as combative, or even jaded or bitter. And so you have to, like for me personally, I am assessing my response to how, when people come at me, especially if I'm feeling charged, I have to be responsible for how I respond.
Mhm. But even in that responsibility where you feel like, how can I say this? Or how you said it, being mindful of how you respond, because on the other end, counterparts don't have that same consideration for how they respond. They call it living their truth.
So I'm going to say something that is going to land, but it is how I feel. I don't. I know that they're there, and I know that sometimes there's a deference that they have towards us, our melanin and who we are, especially when we're intelligent. But I don't give them that space. I stand toe to toe in that space with them and go with them, because here's the thing. You cannot reduce me, especially if I know who I am. You cannot minimize me, or and I've been in some scenarios where who are you talking to? I'm sorry. What did you say? And once you make them aware that you are aware of what they're doing, they have no choice but to respect you or acknowledge where you are. I'm talking about on airplanes. I'm talking about in classrooms, boardrooms, wherever you are. I love that for them. Because if you come over this fence, I promise you, there is a pit bull over here. That's not what I want you to see, but I can get you off me. I can.
Oh my gosh, this is why you're here. I hope everyone is enjoying this conversation. Be sure to like, comment, and share. We're really getting into some different aspects with the one and only Recondius O'Brien. This is our continued conversation in our series, Black Men and Mental Health. And one of the reasons why I continue to push the series is because for the ladies, we have so many platforms and so many rooms and spaces for us to have conversation, whether it's beauty salon or girl boss empowerment brunch and nail shops and living room and back porches, just pretty much girls trip weekends. But for men, to have safe, open conversation like this. We are seeing it grow, but for the most part, and very a lot of spaces is lacking, even within the realm of faith. We're not dragging that community because I'm a part of it, so it's he, but it's just reality. And so our job here is to just have some open conversation and for a while, a long while, many generations, mental health and the realm of faith has been for the most part taboo, and so we really wanna have some healthy, conversation to explore some things, particularly from the perspective of our Black men, and so Rakandius is one of those people in the thought space, so we have conversations on and offline, and, they've been very I will say some very passionate conversations, I'll say that, very passionate.
Yeah.
And so, and one of the things I want to really dig into as we get into the second part of this conversation, Rico, is just when you were explaining and sharing that moment with us as far as the breaking point with fire and loved one passing away and death, just everything. And then to the point where you're just like, this is my last day at work. When you were riding in the car and you placed your head against the window as you told us so clearly, in that moment, how did the weight of all of that feel? Just even though you knew still have to pay Georgia Power, like all these things, and you just like, "You know what? I know, but right now I'm choosing me unapologetically in this very moment."
To be very, very truthful, I did not know how far I was away from the edge.
Mm,
I couldn't say how close or how far I was away from, like, I felt like the line was really fading,
mm,
sincerely. I remember calling my boss. I actually sent her the pictures of the car first, and she called me in a panic, Recondius, please, no. I said, yeah. And I said, my entire body is shaking. I said, I got up to come to work. I said, but I don't know that it's a good idea if I'm around people today. I said, because I feel like if the wrong thing is said, I may explode and I can't come back from that. And that's when I began to understand the fragility of humanity and the fragility of your mind, and understanding that, well, I've always been a strong man. Every man has a breaking point. And I think that I remember distinctly hearing that if you lay in this bed, the devil will take your mind. Because the reason why we have the helmet of salvation is to cover our mind. And in those moments, I did not know where I was in that space. And so, truthfully, what I've done since that time is honor my time to recover. So what does that mean? If I people a whole lot, I unpeople just as much. That means that I could be, we had Wednesday night prayer, we had Good Friday service, there was something Saturday, then it was Easter Sunday. I was in the house all day yesterday. I ran an errand, came right back home. I did not even turn the TV on until probably 6 o'clock yesterday. And then it was on my nerves, so I muted it. Because what I have to do is honor the recovery period. We all have to honor the recovery period. I think that here is my declaration. We all went through the pandemic and we were all changed, but nobody gave us a rule book on how to recover and to re-access society.
Yeah, re-entering society, absolutely.
We re-entered society, maimed some of us, muted some of us. Some of us realized that our parents told us to stay in a child's place. Many of us are still in a child's place. Like, we literally, no one told us how to come out of this successfully. And so what I'm doing for me is honoring, yes, things are different, but I am giving myself the space. If I don't have the capacity, I own that. Are you sure? I don't have the capacity to manage that right now. Someone walked up to me the other day, Elder, can I talk to you? I said, not today. Let's get through Easter. We'll have a conversation. Because what I understood was I didn't have enough bandwidth at that moment. My CPU was already in full activity. So for me to have to add something else to that, something was going to go lacking.
You touched on a couple of things I want to dig into a little bit. Something you said about allowing yourself, like you felt like you didn't have permission to express yourself. And I wonder how many men, particularly men within our community, feel like they don't have the space, the environment, the permission to really express how they're feeling because, as you mentioned, having to show up, having to be present, having to lead, having to think, having to cast vision, like how do you manage that? Like, because as a woman, as I was prefacing before, we have so many spaces that give us room to express how we feel, how we think in that moment. But for men, not so much.
So thank you for acknowledging that. But I will tell you, and this is going to really, really ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to say it because it is the truth. As a kid, if you fall, a little boy, they tell a little boy, get up. Big boys don't cry. A little girl falls, you run over, you dust her off, you check her, make sure that she's not bruised. The little boy was bruised too. His skin on his knee is probably gone because he fell harder. So we have to literally go back and get those little boys and have conversations with them and let them know that it's safe to talk. It's safe for you to show up. It's safe for you to cry. That therein lies the problem. It's not that we as men don't feel that we can cry. It's those little boys that were muted, and they don't cry and won't cry because they were told from 8, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 that you shouldn't cry or you shouldn't feel. So now we have a bunch of emotionless men walking around who are trying to navigate society without feeling. And they're nutting up on people because they have not been given a space to feel.
Yeah.
So they go
Or
unlearning that behavior and migrating with that little person inside of you and letting him know, hey, I got you. It's okay to express how you feel. And that's probably most people, and especially, you'll have some believers say, well, I don't agree with that. You don't have to agree with it, but you can acknowledge that there is a little person inside of you that was not given the voice or the space to express themselves, and they're in conflict with you as an adult.
Yeah, either that or when you found a space where you felt or thought, "Okay, I can be vulnerable here." When you did, it was weaponized or thrown back in your face later, and so you go, "Oh, I won't do that anymore," and so the next person comes along and they want you to, but because you got burnt the last time, that piece of you, that portion of you has been locked away.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That is a real thing where you trust people and you trust them with your truth, and then they weaponize it against you. I would encourage everyone to, especially if that's a thing, or you've witnessed that or been privy to that. I would tell everyone, don't allow that person to take away your ability to be expressive. You just have to choose differently. One of the things for me, like, I can't put everybody in the same pot. I realize, like, some Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Or check your vetting process.
Check your vetting process. But the reason why I quoted that scripture, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. A lot of times they're only doing what has been done to them. Most times they're literally repeating the cycle. The same way clergymen set up and they spew hatred and different things across the pulpit. That's because that's what was fed them. They don't really understand that you are bleeding on the people. I told God when I started ministry, I was not going to bleed on the people. If I could not speak well to them, then I would not speak.
So do you and I'm pretty sure the answer to this is yes, but for this conversation, I do wanna put this out here and just air this out. So when men, um, do, explode, and we see it in ways in the news where it can, and I'm not condoning violence, but do you feel that some of that may be the result of the reason why we are seeing the violence is because this is the only way I can be heard and seen, and we hear, "Oh, I got caught up," or I faded to black," we hear the, "Oh, I saw all red," because you did not have a space to, in a way that was healthy to communicate the anger, the frustration, so it shows up in other ways, and you hear, "Oh, you're not gonna disrespect me," and it could be something minor, like, you could bump into somebody accidentally in public, and it turns into a melee. And it's just like, where is this frustration and anger coming from? Over when you hear the reports on why situations happened, and it could be the smallest thing, and then when you really listen, it's like it really wasn't about that, but maybe that was a breaking point, like, for you when you had your day, that was a breaking point, but you had the emotional intelligence to say, "It's probably best that I'm not around people today." But how many people don't have it? How many men don't have that in their toolbox to even communicate that?
So, good question. The first thing that I want to answer is, you ask how many men and that walk around and they explode, because here's a space. If I don't create a space for you to be vulnerable, or let you know that vulnerable is not weakness, it's actually strength in a different form. If I've never given you the space to be able to express yourself or to be expressive, regardless of how it is, and I can continue to push you away and push you away, it only takes one more push before you're over the edge. And the thing about when you see someone explode to that magnitude, that is not them exploding because they have been pushed over the edge and they're flailing for their lives. They're literally grasping for something that feels like I'm in control again. Now, that's the part that they don't talk about. The explosion is not because I want to hurt you. The explosion is I'm trying to, are you listening? I need to control this narrative. And right now I have lost all control and you're literally it's almost like you taking my innocence or my truth and you're not hearing me. So if I act a fool, you hear me then.
Yeah. So how, for those of us around the men we know, care about, concerned about, how are we present? How can we be present before it gets to that point? Um, and I'm not bragging. I'm probably different as far as, having a podcast space, talking to men all the time. So the way I listen to men, a little different, right? But for the most of us, maybe not so much. And how do we take the eye out of it and listen to you? And this is not a pick me or, oh, she's pandering to women. I mean, pandering to men. This is the fact that men are people too. And these are just conversations that we need to have and that is necessary.
First of all, thank you for always creating a space for men to be able to have open conversations and not feel judged or feel villainized for having feelings. The first thing that I would say to that is the next time you see a brother that you care about, ask him, how are you? I don't want the perfunctory answer. Really, how are you? And allow him, listen, wait for him to tell you. Because what I'm finding now was with one of my little brothers yesterday. Something's going on. He shared, I listened, and then I said, now tell me how you really are. And he began to share how he felt. It made me cry because I couldn't protect him. I wanted to, as his big brother, but I allowed him to listen. I allowed him to talk. Just talk. And I listened. Tears are running. But what I wanted to be for him in that moment was a safe space. A space for him to know that regardless of what it said, you can talk to me. So when I got home last night, or when I got home last night, I sent him a text. I said, hey, want to create a space for you to just be, we can sit, we can talk, whatever. Just let me know when you're ready. He said, okay.
That's good.
I don't know if I finished the answer, but the first thing you can do is ask and then actively listen.
Yeah. And I appreciate your transparency, and in this space on this podcast, I'm a big advocate on safety, and I see a lot of men when they have tears and they choke it down and clear their throat. And I wonder, like, why not lean into that moment and just let the emotion be what it is? It has nothing to do with your masculinity, nothing to question your orientation, whatever that may be, but just you're having a you're human having an emotion. Like, why not express that?
Um, it takes practice. It takes practice to be okay with your tears. It takes practice to be okay to break. It takes time, and I'll be the first to tell you, I probably have a sea of tears that haven't fallen simply because I don't know that if I start crying, if I'll stop. And that's truthful. In worship is the best place for me to release, because no one knows that I'm breaking, but I'm breaking in before my Father. But I can tell you that for many of us, many men, we put that pain into something else. We throw ourselves into work, into sex, sometimes alcohol. So we put it wherever it can go, so that we don't have to feel it in that moment. And so what eventually happens is you become numb or calloused. The unfortunate thing about being numb is that, or calloused, when someone hits that spot, no matter how hardened over it is, it's still tender underneath. And so for many of us, we have got to get used with being vulnerable and being okay with our vulnerability. I am seeing so much more where, men are allowing themselves to feel, but a lot of people, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there are a great deal of men who don't want to feel, because if that feel, that they acknowledge that it hurts.
And this is not a textbook term, but it started here on this podcast, and that's what I call performance exhaustion.
Yeah.
You're doing something to overcompensate in one way or another to avoid dealing with how you're really feeling, like grieving the end of a relationship or breaking a relationship. And it doesn't always have to be romantic. And so now you're just this high achieving person, you're making money, doing all the things, getting all the awards, the accolades, or you're running through people, and you can take that however you want. Your advice may be a substance or a combination of all of the above. And every time that emotion bubbles up, you distract yourself with another award, another achievement, another contract, another something that you closed on. And you're doing all of these amazing, wonderful things. But what about the condition of your heart, your mind, those emotions? Where is that going? Or
And
you sitting on the balcony, you know, cigars at 2 a.m., whatever you're doing, and processing quietly, crying quietly, screaming in silence because you've been grieving on the go, performance exhaustion, and not even allowing your space to truly um, talk about the issue is outside of the realm of worship. Where do you go?
Good question. You have to have a group of people or a couple of people that you can actually be completely vulnerable with. I can tell you that I probably would not have let those tears fall if you and I didn't have a relationship. But we have had in-depth conversation on and offline. But the other part is that we've cried together. We're healing together. You have to have meaningful relationships. I am at a place today where I don't want any more non-reciprocal relationships. If you can't pour back into me the same way I pour into you, then my cup is no longer available to you. I have been giving from my cup for so long. So now the people that are in my life.
Get a shot glass. You get a shot glass.
Shot glass, or I check the fruit. I literally, and I love people, and that's the other part that we don't talk about, is that when you have a heart for people, you want people to be well, you want people to heal. But the first part about healing is you yourself have to notice that you're not well. You have to give that voice something's not right. And then when you find you find your people. Like, I love when my people, the people that, my core group of people, and it's not many people here in Atlanta, I can be vulnerable with them. I can tell them, I just had a conversation with another friend on Sunday. How are things going? Like, how so this happened. How do you feel? Where did it put you? I ask those type of questions because I want to always be a safe space for my friends. I always want to be the type. I want to be the friend that I want to be the type of friend that I want in return. And so, therefore, it's not an easy sell, but truthfully, you have to have people around you that you can trust, that you can literally pour your heart out to, and they won't weaponize you for it.
Absolutely. Um, One of the things as we get into the last point of this conversation, I love talking to you. It's just always um so rich and insightful, and the introspection that you provide, particularly from the male point of view, I truly appreciate it. It's very refreshing um, when you're here. And one of the things I really want to tap into, we may have to circle back when we get to have you back for the next portion of this, maybe even for heart and soul. I don't know, um, but in that space where you have that community, how do you measure the reciprocity from the male perspective? What does reciprocity look like for you? Where it's not just, "Hey man, how you doing? I'm good, I'm good." But just what is the gauge for that? Because and I will say in my time in past, what I thought was reciprocal, by the end of it, I was always the one giving. And even within some close female circles that I've had in times past, what I thought was reciprocal was not. It was more so, um, convenient, transactional, um, proximity, hoping for opportunity, and so I was expecting me from other people, and when it was all said and done, I was doing a lot of pouring, but it was not, um, returned at the same in the same effort or vein or breath.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you two perspectives as it relates to that. In real relationships, there is no 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30 in real relationships. But you know when the other person's cup is lower. And so you step up and you feel the pour, right? The other part is this. A true relationship is going to put a mirror in front of you and allow you to see yourself, or you see or hear yourself in them. What do you mean? You're concerned with whether or not I'm eating. Or you'll say, "Hey, did you eat today?" As opposed to, "Hey, what did you cook?" It's the way it's presented. Or I have a friend, she'll say, "You always doing for somebody else. Let me do for you." And I say to her, I say, it's so rare that people do that. I don't know that I've always known how to receive that. She said, "You take care of me and my family. So I want to always be able to bless you." Now, here is the caveat, because I'm so used to that not being the case. I've had to get used to it. I've had to get used to people wanting to be what I've been asking God to for. So you're asking for this. So what are you saying, Recondius? If I'm asking for it, I shouldn't be surprised when it shows up. But I can tell you this, and this is real life. Try the spirit by the spirit. If I try to allow you into a space and I see the slightest bit that you like something I know what that is. Oh, we don't have to continue this. You good? Oh, I'm good. And I love you. I do. I love you. But I'm loving you from over here.
The silent benediction.
When I tell you I'm loving you from over here, so
Mhm.
to make sure that my answer is solid. A real reciprocal relationship is going to check in wherever you are at that space. When I say check in, if we going out to dinner, one of my friends came from New York for a funeral last week. We get to dinner, and I said, "What do you need from me?" She said, "Nothing." She said, "I'm just glad you made time for me. We haven't had time." Those are the type of relationships where you understand the value of who you are and what you bring to their lives. That's when you know. When you're in a relationship with someone and they're trying to add to your life or add to your investment, the return on your investment, those are your people. But if they're always extracting and never giving, those are not your people. Those are opportunists. And so when you have someone that truly desires to see you do well, they're going to mirror where you are. If we're here at the house eating peanut butter and jelly and drinking ginger ale, we're just as content as we were if we were out having French 75s and crepe waffles. It doesn't matter because the value is in what in the exchange of when we're together. Not how much it costs, but the energy in which we create when we're together. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's not about the dollar sign, it's just about the pour.
It's about the pour and the ability to recognize when you're empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. We're gonna put a pin in this conversation because we actually this is the appetizer, and y'all don't know, but he and we can go. So before we do that, I just have one more thing just before everything wraps up.
Before we wrap up, what are your key takeaways from our conversation, and where can our listeners find you on social media?
I like Jazz. She's nice. Oh, thank you, Monica.
Hey, Mama.
So the key takeaways for me is this. You know, we began the conversation talking about pivoting. We can't get so stagnant into a space, right? And so it's so interesting that we're having this conversation because I shared with them tonight, we can't continue to put old wine into new wineskins, or new wine into old wineskins. How does this relate to pivoting? Oftentimes, we're so familiar with a space, whether it be a job, whether it be a relationship, whether it be even ministry. We stay there out of familiarity. But if we are to be, or examples of Christ was always moving. He did what he had to do. He hit it and he quit it. He went on to the next thing. Don't get so stuck that you miss the opportunity to move. God, that's good. That's so good to me. Don't get so stuck that you miss the opportunity to move. Meaning that there's opportunities everywhere. Like I literally wake up in the morning wondering how God is going to blow my mind today. That's how I live, wondering. And my things are lofty. Like I'm like, somebody gonna call me and say, "Hey, do you want this truck?" Hey, listen, true story. Like I literally, that's how I think. So we're talking about pivoting. Don't be so stuck that you can't pivot. Then how did the disruptions change me? What the disruptions did was they made me aware that I was not present in my own life.
Whoa. Let's unpack that little nugget just a little bit. That's a bar.
Okay. How did the disruptions impact my life? I wasn't present for me. Wow. I was showing up everywhere that they thought I should be. I was at work, I was at church, I was doing this, dying on the inside. Feeling like, who in the world is going to come and encourage the encourager?
Who's the tow truck for the tow truck?
Flat for the tow truck. Because the wheels are flat. But what I had to understand was no one was coming to save me because no one knew I was drowning. knew I was drowning. And so what I had to do in that moment was stop, assess where I was, and literally start eating the elephant one bite at a time. I couldn't fix it all at the same time, but what I could do, one piece at a time. I'm going to give you an example. I told you I've been in pain and went to the chiropractor. And I go to the chiropractor and the spirit will reveal to me either before my adjustment or after my adjustment what was going to be the impact of the adjustment, right? Yesterday I threw away a bar stool that was exacerbating my pain some. That may seem like, what's the big deal? I'm one step closer to being completely healed. Because that bar stool was a safety net. Because I had it and I would go and I would here and decompress my day. But I removed it so it is no longer the crutch that it had become.
Say that one more time. The bar stool, what?
Was a crutch. Because I would sit there for hours. I would come in and sit at that bar stool for hours. Yesterday I threw it away. Now I'm going to get news, but I threw it out. It was only one. I had thrown the other one away months ago. So I was not
comfortable, but it's not giving you support.
There you go.
The bar stool was comfortable, but was not giving you support.
There are people in our lives that are comfortable but not giving support.
There are people in our lives that are comfortable, but that are not giving us support.
Mm-mm. They're crutches.
They're crutches. Okay.
Yeah. But I was not showing up for myself. And so now I am acknowledging where the pains are, where the pain is, or where the deficits are, if I cause them, and the impact of what they're doing. I could give you a laundry list right now of things. Right now. I could literally give you a laundry list of things that my plants, I had 64 plants at one time. After my car was stolen last year, 20 of them died. I didn't go in the room the whole time. The whole month my car was, the whole month, I don't think I went into the room where all the plants were. I don't think I went in there maybe twice within a 6-week period. And I used to go in there every day just to look at them and glean from their beauty. That's how bankrupt I was. Here is a huge takeaway. My plants gave me joy, but because there was a deficit, so many deficits, the things that were supposed to give me nutrients, I was not getting enough nutrients for my joy.
So we'll leave this with the people. And listeners and viewers, think about the people around you. Are they chairs? Or are they bar stools? Are you a chair? Or are you a bar stool?
Are you the pitcher or are you the cup?
Oh.
Yeah.
You're the faucet. Do you have a filter? Are you giving dirty water? It's giving tap.
Dirty water, baby.
Well, everyone, I hope you got something from tonight's conversation. Be sure to follow me across all streaming platforms such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. Join me next week. Tracy Powell returns as we continue our conversation on the psychology of the dollar in the Black community and the road to home ownership. So we are carving out a financial corner, education, a finance corner here on the Speaker Podcast, because this is the podcast where innovators creators connect, and we talk about topics and issues impacting the community and the culture, and money is one of them. So she'll be back next week. I hope you got something from this conversation, everybody. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. And also, Recondius, do you have any new projects and where people can find you on social media?
So on my social media, I am at Recondius O'Brien, my name. And on my professional social media, it is the ROL Experience, as it's spelled on the screen, the ROL Experience. That is my business page. I have some things on the horizon, but I am there in the infantry stages. God has given me the idea for a children's book. And so when I think about, oh God, I want to do something, he said, well, did you do the last thing I said? So I have a children's book that I'm going to be working on. I have a part 2 of my novel that I wrote, The Truth I Didn't Tell. I have part 2 to that. So it's some things on the horizon, but I had to, when I told you I had to do some inner work, that's what I meant. I had to get, catch my spirit up to what was happening in the physical. And so I'm excited. My eyes are wide open. My prayer has been, God, give me the wonder of children. Children that their eyes are so bright and they've not been harmed, and the world is just deep. I want that back. So that's been my prayer.
Awesome. Well, that's it. That's all, folks. Y'all be blessed. Good night. Bye.
Wow. What a conversation. I hope you got something from tonight's episode. If you missed tonight's convo, no worries. Just catch the replay on YouTube and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Keep the Speaker Podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Speak Her Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at camille.essick, Facebook at the Speak Her Podcast, or www.camilleessick.com.
Listen, love the Speak Podcast. The feeling when you're here. There's a vibe in your ear.